get cracking anyway. So only a few of us, which is kind of cool. It might be that you want to move a bit forward, because what I want this to do is be a bit interactive and ask you questions. Last time we did a session like this, it was a round table. There was about 15 people sat around a fairly large round table, and everyone really got involved. So I'm hoping we can do the same thing. There aren't any slides. I'm not presenting. That would be a presentation, and that's not the point of this. It's a workshop, so I want everyone just to, be part of it and add your piece to it. So we'll do a bit of introductions. We'll give you some interesting facts and bits of information about sustainability and sort of transformational stuff as well. And then we're going to fire a few questions out, and we'll try and build on those for you as well. But we want to know what you're doing and what you're doing in those kind of spaces. And then to wrap up, we've got 20 minutes. It's not long. Can you keep me on time? So just shout at me or shout at us if we're getting carried away. 10 minutes, 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay.
Shut up. That's brilliant. So who am I? My name is Nick Purnell. I work for my own small consultancy, Purnell Transformation. I've been in the digital space for about 25 years. I've worked for people like GSK, recently with Convatec, doing a marketing operation model, etc. for them. Sony PlayStation, lots of big name brands over the years. Started my career as a graphic designer, web designer, and over that 25 odd years have become what I do now. Very passionate about optimization of digital, very passionate about the green credentials we can get with it. So hoping that you'll feel the same. Martina?
Hi everyone, once again, my name is Martina Miller. I work as Business Development Director in CMG, a digital scale agency, and I've been collaborating with Nick, well, for far too long, I would say. An interesting thing is that our relationship actually started as Nick being our client on GSK, and the relationship just keeps growing, and now we're actually partners, which I'm particularly glad.
Good, yeah. No, we have. So GSK, CMG were on our tender list and won that tender and became the digital production partner for GSK, which is about 8 years ago, I think, something like that.
Something like that. In 2016, I believe.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
So, some interesting facts, just as sort of takeaways for you. So, how many websites get created every day? Now, this is slightly out of date. This was from 2021. As of 2021, there were over 1.86 billion websites online, which equates to roughly 500,000 websites being created daily. And that's already 2 years old, that data. How big is the internet? That's another really interesting one. There's a good number at the end of this as well, which is that global internet users, as of 22, were at 5 billion, which is 62% penetration. Okay, there's certain countries and areas that aren't going to be using the internet, but overall, it's massive. The beast is getting bigger. So, key things to think about, really. Large enterprises, large brands, corporations often have inefficient delivery prep methods, management of digital assets and channels, etc. You often see global to local issues. It's I understand my market, you don't understand my market type questions. Often assets are created multiple times in different areas. At a very large medical company I was recently with, I found that they had 3 major programs running, all building applications, all doing the same thing, all multi-million pounds or multi-million dollar in the US and in the UK and in Poland. And it was a really simple thing to go, well, this actually is a program of work. We create one core module, and then we share that out against everyone. And if we need to customize it and tweak it, we can, but we're not building the whole thing time and time again.
And just to add on that topic, due to situations like these, so being inefficient, creating multiple content that's not necessary, creating waste, got us to a situation where we currently are, and that's that the internet is the 4th, if internet was a country, it would be the 4th largest polluter on Earth. This is something that not many people are aware of. But we all, as marketers, as part of the digital ecosystem, have to be aware of that.
I think that to me is the real thing that gets me quite excited about our ability to be sustainable in this space. As a country, it's the 4th biggest polluter, which is just mental. So every little thing we do can actually go towards making that better. I've mentioned the global to local issues. Of course, there's always the other thing that anyone that works in brand or content, etc., knows, that there is content and images and stuff flying around in email and things. Not only is that not reproducible or sustainable, but it also just isn't efficient. So there's some examples, really, about how you can do this well and how you don't do it well. At the not doing things well, you've got, as I mentioned, the regional piece, the countries, divisions all doing their own thing. So another firm I was working with, global company, each country ran as a separate identity, and each of the 4 key business units they had did their own thing too. So there were not just silos, country silos, there were silos inside those silos. Same projects, I mentioned that will often happen globally, so how do you centralize that up through portfolios, roadmaps, etc. I know my market, you don't know my market, that's the global to local thing, which is absolutely true. Sony PlayStation, Jorge, who ran Spain at the time, he knew his market. But what we could do was give him the tools so he could go to market quicker.
Just as an example, what we do in CMG when we take on the localization and the adaptation projects, we have this 80-20 rule that's not that rigid. It can be 25-75, but it means that roughly around 80% of the global content remains the same when you scale it, and around 20% gets to be very local specific. So this is the way how you actually optimize and create that usability by creating an asset that's roughly around 80% reusable for all the local markets you're operating on. Yeah.
Keys to doing that is digital asset management. Question? Yes. Can we come back to that in just a moment? Because that's exactly a question we're going to ask. So what we want to do is put it around everybody.
This is what I do for a living, convince people to collaborate. So I'll be happy to answer that.
Yeah. Other pieces really to think about is, as I mentioned, digital asset management, things like that. How many organizations don't use that? A really good example, I just finished a piece of work for a very big UK-based charity. They had Binder, which is one of the best digital asset management products on the market. They didn't use it. They didn't know they had it. They were paying the license, they were paying the maintenance, and they weren't using it. Too much content. How many websites are just full of noise? And actually, if you start looking at personalization and techniques like that, you can reduce that noise. Reducing that noise reduces your need for capacity and storage, therefore electricity, and so on.
So what we did for GSK, again, me with my practical examples, because this is actually what we've done for GSK a couple of times. Within their web transformation project, we use the templated approach. So basically, the single template, cross brands and cross markets, with, of course, each brand's own visual identity, etc. But what we did, our team calculated it, that we reduced the carbon offset by 30 kilos per website that we did and optimized, just by using the templated approach, which is not something super innovative or new. I cannot put my patent on it. But the thing is that it is super simple to be efficient and sustainable. We don't have to do, we don't have to move rocks. Just have to think about it and use it in our everyday work.
And I think that's the big takeaway from this, is that even if you're not going down the sustainable, put a big green sticker against everything I do route, if you are coming up with a more optimized way of working, optimized way of delivery, you are going to be doing this naturally anyway. So there's a play on that. What are the good examples of how we do this? Well, centers of excellence and strategies around that help, digital asset management, using those products, agencies, working with the right agencies, PSLs, etc. Getting digital on the corporate strategy, if you want to do that. At the last round table we had one person who was like, I wouldn't even dream of saying that to my exec, I'll get shot. That's fair enough. But actually, I think you've got a chance that if you start doing these exercises at some point in the future when the CMO or the CIO or the CEO comes to you and says, hey, I want this to be, sustainable. How can we prove our website sustainable? You'd be quite cool if you said, I've done that already and here's my data.
Because that day will come. It's only a question of when. And there's also another twist to this story, and this is that while being sustainable and while creating your digital assets in a more sustainable and reusable way, you're actually saving your budget as well. Because what we did for GSK, oh my God, I'm going to write that on my forehead, what
Just
we
write
did for GSK.
We'll get GSK t-shirts.
Yeah, GSK t-shirts. The project I was telling you about, the web templating, we managed to reduce costs by 30% by using templates, and we decreased production timings for 60%. So being sustainable really pays off in multiple ways. It's a win-win situation, if you ask me.
The other interesting bit about it, for me personally, is about 6 months ago is when the sustainability thing sort of switched on with me. I've been doing this for years. I love doing this. I love looking at companies that need help, that we can shape and help do better. I love, I go there for 1-2 years and I help them reshape it, and then I move on to the next place. But about 6 months ago, I suddenly went, hang on a sec, this is sustainable. This has a green and ethical piece, which gives me more reason to exist and more excitement about what we're doing. So here's the bit where we all get involved. So this is the questions. Your question will come up at the second one. So the first one is, and I'd like to put it out to everyone, and maybe if you don't mind that if you want to talk about it, introduce yourself so everyone knows who we all are. The first question is how do you currently measure and communicate your digital sustainability impact? Is there anyone that's actually doing that now? No. Okay. Great.
Early stages, of course.
Can we ask where you're from? And great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone's in the early stages. Yeah.
How do we do it? That's a question mark. Was the big one. And if you look who's doing it really well, this is the first example that I hear would relate that. Because so far everybody's kind of scratching surface, but still not really.
Just to make things clear, it wasn't done because of digital sustainability or the environment. It was done because of efficiency, cost reduction, and time reduction. That were actually our KPIs. And sustainability and going green was just a wonderful output that we had.
It gives it good reason.
Yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right. I think everyone's in those very early stages of looking at how to do this. And the numbers you can build around it, they're statistics, and you can make it say what you want to some degree. But you have to be honest to yourself, and you need to be honest to your employers, employees, and customers if you really want to do this right. And as you mentioned before, does it get on to, how do you get other people to come onto that?
Can I answer that now? The question you had, because it's a really interesting one. It's something I ask myself every morning while I prepare myself some coffee and, get prepared for turning on my laptop. 5 minutes, right? Okay.
5 minutes. Where does that go?
There's not a golden rule about it, but it's communication. What I've seen in my experience is that local levels, often regional levels as well, feel very excluded from global strategy. And you have to find a way to include them, to make them feel like they're a part of that project. So basically what we do, we communicate and over-communicate, definitely. We give local feedback, we feed that feedback back into the global level and make sure that their voice is being heard. And practically from the first time we have a successful project where every single level is involved, it's smooth sailing onwards because they all see the benefits once they're in it. So the hardest part is actually to get everyone involved just for that first project.
And that's the best approach. But my challenge is when you have a significant number of countries, almost 100. That is the tricky part. How do you get that? Do you get to 100 countries with every single function involved in the process? You can't. It's a governance. People come on board, they leave, they move roles, how do you sustain
Yeah.
that collaboration, that mindset?
And there's a mixture of different things. You know, at GSK we had workshops where they came to us, but that's not very efficient because they're all jumping on planes. Avis Budget Group, they all came to us. Still not very efficient. Sony PlayStation, we went to them. We did a roadshow, but we chose the top 5 countries that we wanted to go to, and then we sort of did a train the trainer and let it start to proliferate down. And we set up town halls. We made sure that the CEO was engaged, that when the CEO stood up and talked about it, it was on the table. It was very clear, this is where we're going. The other one I also say, so the charity that I was just doing, big fluffy warm gloves, bring everyone on the journey. Charities are really, really hard places to work because people aren't paid much money. Their incentives to do the work are very different from most of ours. So bringing them along the journey is quite a hard one to do. So I always joke, but I say I've got big, warm, cuddly arms. I give everyone a hug and I bring them on the journey. And I think that's the trick to this, is bringing everyone on the journey. You are going to get some speed bumps. You are going to get someone who doesn't get it. You're going to get someone who says, I do it right in my country and I don't need you. And sometimes you'll find a way of convincing them. Other times you'll bite the bullet and just let them rest for a while whilst you deal with the bigger questions.
And you advertise those who are on board with you. So you have a successful project with a couple of local markets. You generate some savings, some value from it, and you definitely put a lot of marketing, internal marketing around it. And then all of a sudden, everyone wants to get aboard.
So we've got like a minute, so I'm going to fire out a few more bits. We already hit with the internet being the 4th biggest country polluter if it was a country. What you want to ask yourself is, do you need to be able to demonstrate green credentials? For me personally, I would love to go somewhere. I said to the RSPB, that was the charity who I was with, wouldn't it be cool if we could put a little green leaf on all of our digital assets saying that we have, you know, reduced our carbon offset? You are a green charity. You should be doing this. Do you need this as part of your organization's overall sustainability strategy? Maybe, maybe not. But maybe you need to be thinking in this way, going towards that for the day when you get asked, what are you doing about it? Are your teams on board? So are you sharing that message so everyone follows that? So I love that idea of the little green leaf. And if I could find a way of making that happen globally, I think that would be super cool. Imagine how big the internet is going to be in the future. It only gets bigger and uglier. So if we can do our little piece to help maintain and manage that, we're doing the right thing. And there are a lot of simple things you can do, which are what we do naturally anyway through optimization. Whether you're optimizing a digital asset, an image, like you would naturally for a web, or you're optimizing a process for delivery, or you're optimizing your teams, your competencies and all of those things, or even you're optimizing your technology. So you're looking at your servers, you're looking at your digital asset management, and all of that stuff, and how do you better use all that. All of those things you will do will impact and give you a better green credential anyway. I think that's it.
There's one more thing, I think, as well, and that is that are you prepared for the legislation that's coming? Because it's on its way.
Yeah.
It's happening in Australia already, where they're legislating, so it's on the way down.
Maybe one thing I can add from my company Aspen is they now started on the email side to save for the environment. So if someone is on holiday, emails will not be sent through to the recipient. So the email will be deleted and the sender will be informed the participant is on holiday. And emails with attachments longer than 6 months will be deleted automatically. So the attachments will be deleted, because it will be encouraged to send the link to 365 documents, and so reducing the email space and space you use for it.
It's exactly the
how many
same
of us
thing
clear
we
out our
did.
inboxes? Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone hated it at first, hated it. And now we are all on board. It's what we did in our company. And the amount of whining I heard in those first two months, yeah.
Then it's really smooth and people were relieved. They're coming back from holiday, there's no email, and happy.
I do a different approach, which is when I've been on holiday, I come back and there's like 2,000 emails in your inbox. First thing I do is a search, is there anyone more important than me in it? If there is, I respond to them. Everything else I delete. and I send a broad email to everyone saying, I haven't read anything, I've deleted everything in the last 2 weeks. If it's important, come and find me and tell me physically. And actually, I found that really, really works. It upsets a few people, but you know, it keeps your inbox down, and it saves you wasting hours.
So if you want to continue this discussion, we would be very, very happy to have you at our stand, booth number 5.
You can't
We're
miss it, the
here.
big green one.
Yeah, it's the big green one, exactly. So thank you very much for this.
Lovely to meet you.
Yes.